Good afternoon, and welcome to the final day of National Consumer Protection Week 2021 here at the Delaware Department of Justice. My name is Luke Meyer, and I will be your moderator for today's session. I want to thank you for tuning in to our final installment of our 10-part series of the top 10 scams that affect Delawareans. During this session, we'll be discussing travel, vacation, and timeshare scams. Here to talk about these type of scams, we have two members of the Consumer Protection Unit at the Delaware Department of Justice. We have a Deputy Attorney General, Jordan Braunsberg, and we have our Director of the unit, Marion Quirk. Between the two of them, they will be discussing what these scams are, how they affect Delawareans, and what you at home can do to try to avoid these scams. Now, before we dive in, I want to remind you at home that if you have any questions about these type of scams throughout the course of this discussion, please put them in the comments section of the Facebook Live. If we have time at the end, I will be able to ask our panelists some of your questions. Now, without further ado, Jordan, if you wouldn't mind getting us started.
Sure. Thank you, Luke. Hi, Marion. Hi, everyone else. So in terms of travel scams, the place I wanted to start is kind of where we've all been for the past year, which is quarantine. We've all been staring at the same four walls, the same ceiling, the same floor, the same view, the same everything. And what that means is that everyone wants to get out. Everyone wants to go someplace, any place that's new. So with vaccines getting administered, cases going down, and life kind of hopefully returning back to normal, I'm going to talk about some of the ways we can all get scammed when we're looking for some different walls to stare at. So that's more or less my first point, is that this can and does happen to everyone. We think that it couldn't happen to us, that we're going to catch all the scams that come our way, and we're going to catch some of them, but we may not catch all of them. It's important to remember that from a scammer's perspective, it is a numbers game. If we catch 10 and they get us on one, that's still a victory for them. And so just real quick, for people who think that they're not necessarily in the demographic for scams related to travel, that's just not the case. Maybe they don't have family, they don't have an email account, they don't use WhatsApp, but scamming is a numbers game. So the more people they reach, the better they are. That means any social media platform, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, anything that they can communicate with you through, they will use to try and scam you. Again, the upshot is if they can talk to you on it, they will try and scam you through it. Age, gender, family composition, none of that ultimately matters because it's not about you. It's about getting their pitch in front of as many people as possible. So I want to start really with scams when you're arranging your trip, and specifically with unsolicited travel. So the first thing that you should be on the lookout is for something that you didn't ask for, is a trip that's been offered to you that you don't know why you're being offered it. Maybe you want a contest, but you didn't enter a contest. Maybe it's a text message, but you didn't sign up to receive any text messages. Maybe it's an Instagram DM where you're invited to travel somewhere for free, so long as you share it with your followers. These are all exciting opportunities, particularly for the year that we just had. But if you didn't ask for it, you should be very, very cautious about pursuing it. You can independently verify the trip, call the resort, call the airline, call the people who posted about the contest if the contest is involved. Check it out online if you can. See if other people have talked about it online. Talk to people you know, ask them if they've heard about it. But moving on from unsolicited trips into when you're actually looking for trips, the first thing that you probably do is you look for a hotel. What you're going to do, what everyone's going to do in today's world, is go to a website and find a hotel's website. Check it out there, make sure that it has everything that they want. It's going to be in the location that they want. It's going to have rooms that accommodate the size of family that they're bringing, and it's going to be obviously something that they're looking for in terms of aesthetics. So let's say you book a hotel like that. You found the website, it fits all the criteria that you're looking for. But when you get there, the hotel doesn't look anything like what you found online. That's a scam, obviously. And you see these sorts of scams happen too with airline travel. So you may get invitations to purchase airline tickets for a much steeper discount than you might otherwise expect, and you'll be provided some sort of explanation as to why this steep discount exists. Maybe there was a large number of cancellations, there was an error in the system, and you're going to be the benefit of that error. But when you take the ticket you purchased from there to the airline, they don't recognize it. That's the same thing that happens with a hotel. There are a couple of ways you can protect yourself with respect to these sorts of scams when it comes to these booking scams. And the main way is to ensure that you don't rely on one website. Check out reviews, look at other websites, look at similarly priced and similarly grouped things that you would want. Make sure that the offer that you're receiving is similar to the ones that are offered elsewhere. If it's too good to be true, it probably ultimately is. Just remember that just because a website is sleek and well designed, that doesn't mean it's valid. In today's world, those are cheap and easy to produce, and they're easy to maintain. So check out Google, make sure that it's at the location that you want, make sure it looks the way that you want it to look. So let's say that you've made it to the destination that you've arranged, no issues with travel, no issues with the hotel that you've booked. One of the more common scams that we see is what's called Wi-Fi phishing, which is where someone sets up a Wi-Fi network that looks very similar to the name of the place you're staying. So you're staying at the Mayan Resorts, and it's the Mayan Resorts Wi-Fi 1. You log on to that Wi-Fi, you go onto Facebook, Instagram, maybe you check a bank account because you're on vacation, you want to check funds. Well, now scammers have all of that information. And maybe that information gets sold to a third party. Maybe you get a threatening email that's going to expose some facet of your life that you find embarrassing. Maybe your Facebook password is the same as your bank account password because it's difficult to have 20 different passwords. One of the ways that you can address this is make sure that you talk to someone, make sure that you find the correct Wi-Fi when you're connecting to someplace that's new. So look, ultimately this is about, or has been about 5 minutes. We can't go over each and every scam that you might run across, but there are places that you can look to for help. There are a ton of websites out there that talk about travel scams, and those are frequently updated. The Better Business Bureau has one, the FTC has one. There are resources out there to look at before you go on vacation. It is 5 minutes out of your day to Google common travel scams before you go on a trip. But if you're the victim of a travel scam, it's going to be hours and hours of your life. Those 5 minutes are going to be a very good return on your investment. So with that, I believe Marion's going to speak to you about rental scams, and I will turn it over to her.
Thank you, Jordan. That was very informative. I think we're at a time now, especially this time of year, where I think there's spring break and summer, so folks are definitely looking to hopefully get away to the extent possible. So I'm going to address rental scams. They are everywhere. These scams can happen to you if you're renting something at the beach, whether you're renting something in a city, wherever it might be. These can impact you. So I'm going to talk about 3 common scams with respect to property rentals. So one is the phantom property. This is a posting for a property that frankly just doesn't exist. It may have there may be pictures, there may be an address, hopefully, but the scammer is looking for you to pay money, pay a deposit, a security deposit, something quick to get your money without you conducting the diligence. And if you conducted the diligence, you would see that this address just doesn't exist. It's just, there is no such location. And the scammers are really trying to get you to act very quickly and make decisions quickly, give them money quickly, so you don't have the time to do the necessary diligence. So that the phantom scam that I mentioned, like I said, you check the address, and that can help see that there is no such property, and also research the company or the individual that put the property up for rent. As Jordan mentioned, there's a lot of things you can find out online through the Better Business Bureau. You can look at Facebook, see if there's litigation, whatever it might be. Really get to know and try to find as much information as you can about the person you're trying to conduct a business transaction with, whether that be an individual or a company. The next type of scam that's very common is I'll call it the double the double rental. This is where there's an actual legitimate rental for a property. What the scammer does is they take the pictures, the listing, everything about it that looks legit, because it is, and they put it on another website. And very often, all of that information translates to the new website. They'll just change an email or a phone number. So they are essentially responding to requests to rent the property, and they're trying to scam you out of your money, essentially. This is similar to the first one, where the scammers look to have you act quickly so that you pay the money without conducting the diligence. So how you can try to avoid being scammed in this situation is do the searches. If you did a search, you'd see that there's 2 different listings for the same property. You might even see that there's different contact information. That could be a red flag for you to do more diligence to make sure you're not paying money and being incredibly disappointed for you and your family if you paid for something, you're out of the money and you're not able to get away, which would be incredibly disappointing. Another scam is, it's the scam it just is too good to be true. The amenities, let's say it's a Delaware shore house right on the beach, 10 bedrooms, pool, you name it. It just seems like it would just be terrific and perfect for you and your family or whomever you're traveling with. The scam here is those amenities are not associated with that particular property. So there is an actual address, but the pictures do not line up with reality. So a way to try to avoid that type of scam is to, if you can visit the property, that would certainly be helpful, or family and friends to drive by, and do essentially also due diligence on the person renting it. Again, that's always very helpful. And you can also contact the renter and ask questions. How far are you from the beach? You say you're right on the beach, because a lot of times the folks that are scamming you are not familiar with the area. They might not be able to answer very simple questions like good restaurants, proximity to the beach, whatever it might be. And that can give you the necessary information to show you that do not go through with this. It is a scam. They're looking to take your money. So I just want to run through I've identified some red flags, but a few others. One of the top red flags is urgency. There's this incredible sense of urgency that you need to act within hours and minutes because you're going to lose out. And so that's a common ploy by scammers so that you don't have the opportunity to do your diligence. So be wary of that. Another top one is how you would pay for a security deposit or whatever it might be. When the scammers require cash, they want you to wire the money, and once you wire money, especially if it's overseas, you're not going to be able to get that back. They might claim that they are overseas, and so that's why you do have to wire them money, but be very wary of that. Paying money before your documents are signed, whatever it might be that you're documenting this rental, you shouldn't be paying money before that, in fact, is all penned and set in stone. You'll see often with these scamming rental listings, there's missing information. There might be no address listed, very few pictures, missing contact information for the company or the individual that's renting it. That is a red flag. A low price is also a red flag. Do your diligence, look at property in the area that is similar and see what it's renting at, because there is such a thing, as Jordan mentioned, as something that really is too good to be true. So those are definitely signs that you need to do a little more. You need to do a little more diligence to make sure that your rental is legit. Luke, have we received any questions yet through the Facebook chat?
We have not. So if you have questions, please submit them now, but I do have some questions for the both of you. I'm going to start with Jordan. If there's a few things that you want viewers at home to take away from this discussion, what would they be?
Sure. The principal one is really don't rely on just one thing. And I think Marion echoed that in some of her comments and I think her words are good, are due diligence. Do your due diligence. Look into what it is that you're trying to acquire, what it is you're trying to find. And if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And so check out other websites, check out reviews. Google Maps is a great resource, both for ensuring the location is accurate and ensuring the description of the location is accurate as well.
Thank you, Jordan. And the same question for you, Marion. What are some tips for consumers that you would like them to take away from this discussion?
Yeah, I'll iterate it again. Do your due diligence. It doesn't take much time to do a little bit extra and take that extra, whether it be 5 minutes or more, to really research particularly the renter, excuse me, and the company. There's a lot you can find out. What we find with these scammers is they often change the name of their company. And it might be the same individual. So if you look in social media, if you look for litigation, judgments, online reviews, those are great places to really find information about the company and the individuals, because the individuals, like I said, they may reinvent themselves and have a new company, but you might be able to find the reviews or information that would cause you to pause before you actually engage further and pay money.
Thank you, Marion. And we do have a question from a viewer at home. Either one of you can answer this question. They ask, can you talk a little bit about timeshares, and not just resales, but also developer sales, and what people should be looking out for when researching that?
I'm happy to talk about that, and Jordan can weigh in if he has any more to add. Timeshares are, a lot of what we said is similar in terms of diligence that you need to do about, who is offering the timeshare. Is it like a Marriott, a company like that? And make sure that if that's the case, that is actually the company that's offering that type of timeshare. Really look at the paperwork. There's a lot of legalese involved with timeshares, and whether you own something or not, or how are you working out that sharing, and what your time is, and what your kind of rights and remedies are associated with it, because they tend to be expensive ventures, and you want to make sure that you get the full disclosure of what the benefits are to make sure that you're getting you're not being scammed, essentially. But I would say that the same things still do apply. Don't pay money before you fully vet the documents. Make sure you know who you're doing business with, and still look for those reviews to make sure that this is actually legit in terms of what you're trying to sign up for.
Yeah, I think that's all correct. And I really want to drill down on the review of the documents piece of that, because all the stuff that we said earlier is going to be relevant to timeshares. I think where the disconnect for timeshares comes is kind of what's billed to customers as to what it's going to look like versus what it is that's actually said in the document. So that disconnect, and really focusing on, okay, this is what was kind of laid out for me in the presentation that I sat through. This is actually what it says in the document. And really understanding that dichotomy and that difference, I think, is going to go a long way as it pertains to timeshares.
And I'll just make one last point that there are scams associated with timeshares, and we didn't talk a lot obviously about that other than answering this question here today. But the same principles do apply, and you really do have to be wary and just look out for the red flags, particularly before you pay money for something, because it's, like I said, it's very hard to get your money back.
Great, thank you. Jordan, a question for you. What if you're put in a vacation contest and you're told that you have won, but you're not sure if it's actually true? What should you do?
Sure. So I think there are really kind of three avenues that you should do for that. One, if you've actually put in for the contest, you should have the contact information for whoever it is that's running the contest. Don't just receive a call and then rely on that. Reach out to that person first, or reach out to that program first, because they'll have a number on a website. Often that if you're being scammed, they won't be using that same number that's on the website. They'll have figured out that you've put in for the contest, and they'll reach out to you kind of independently. So if you do your own reaching out, that'll be one way to respond to that. Kind of the other two ways are if there is travel involved or if there's a resort or hotel involved, contact both of those independently. And so that word there, independent, really is kind of what's doing a lot of the leverage here is independently check everything out, check with the company, check with any place that you're going, and check with any mechanism that you're going, whether that's by air, travel, train, or something else.
Great, thank you. Now, Marion, you talked a lot about researching rental companies or someone offering a rental. How exactly can someone go about researching a company to figure out if it is in fact legit?
That's a good question, Luke. Many, many ways. One, check out the Better Business Bureau, and you very often can see if there have been complaints, what they have been. Check out the company and individuals' social media pages, and whatever that might be. And they could be a red flag because they don't look legit. That could be a problem. But you could also see that there are complaints related to the company or the individual. You can search public records for judgments and litigation that the individual or the company may be involved with, and online reviews. I mean, let's face it, nobody's shy these days about speaking their mind, and so there's a wealth of information that you can find on the internet by just typing in the individual or the company name.
Great, thank you. I think we have time for just one more question for both of you, and they're pretty similar. So, for Jordan, what can we do if we think we've fallen victim to a scam?
So in the immediate term, the first thing that you want to do is you kind of want to stop the bleeding. And what I mean by that is reach out to your banks, reach out to any financial institution that you're involved in, your credit card companies, anything like that. Make sure that they're aware that you have been or potentially are the victim of a scam, because that's going to be the kind of lowest hanging fruit for somebody to take advantage of your information with. So once you've advised them that that is going on and they've been made aware, that should kind of stop any issues from happening in the future, hopefully. The next steps are kind of putting together whatever documents are going to be necessary to kind of address the situation, get screen captures, get any materials that you received, make sure everything that you have related to that is still something that you have, because that relates to the next step, which is you need to make a decision about whether you're going to refer this to law enforcement. You can make a police report, you can follow up with the Delaware Consumer Protection Division's website. If it's a different state, they're likely also going to have a similar government body. You can also reach out to the federal government as well, probably through the FTC or potentially a different body. But those are kind of the three steps. Make sure that your financial institutions are aware, gather whatever documents are necessary to sort of help you move forward, and then make a decision about a law enforcement referral.
Thanks, Jordan. And to going off of step 2, Marion, what type of information would be helpful to bring to an agency that you want to report a complaint or a scam to?
You want to have, and I think that Jordan mentioned it, to the extent you have the phone number, the name of who you are communicating with, individual, company name, contact information, that's very helpful. Any details about that correspondence, and if it were text, capture the text and try to get that printed out. Emails, any documents you signed. And timing is also important as well, to the extent you can remember those details, and being armed with that information is what we find to be very helpful when we get complaints. That's the type of detail that's helpful to us.
Thank you, Marion. And thank you to both of you for taking time out of your day to talk about these type of scams and how they affect Delawareans. I want to thank all of the viewers at home who took time out of their day today to watch our sessions, but also throughout the whole week. We had 10 sessions talking about the top 10 scams in Delaware. So thank you. And if you have any questions about what you watched, you can always go back and watch them again. They will be saved on our Facebook page. We will also be doing a Twitter recap of the scams this afternoon at 4 p.m. on our Twitter page, which you can follow at DE_DOJ. That's DE_DOJ. I just want to thank all of our external partners and our team members at the Consumer Protection Unit for helping us make the National Consumer Protection Week 2021 a success. We've really enjoyed this week reaching out to Delawareans and beyond. So thank you again, and please stay safe.